Lila Harper never meant to linger in the house her parents left her. It was a plain, boxy place with peeling cedar siding and a front yard choked by crabgrass and dandelions. Tucked at the end of a sleepy cul-de-sac in a Virginia suburb, it felt just far enough from the bustle to be calm, yet close enough for pizza deliveries or an ambulance if needed. When her dad passed 7 months ago, Lila, a logistics manager hustling in her cramped Richmond apartment, drove down to sort papers, cut off utilities, and prep the place for sale. But something about the creaky back porch, the way sunlight spilled through the kitchen window late in the day, hooked her. 2 months later, she was still there, answering emails by morning and wrestling the yard by afternoon, finding a strange peace in the dirt under her nails. It was one of those crisp spring afternoons when trouble started. Lila was crouched by the north fence, old jeans caked with mud, gloved hands yanking invasive ivy near the line where her land met the neighboring Coles lot. The Coles had lived next to her parents for decades, though Lila barely remembered them beyond a few stiff hellos. Now, Tom and Diane Cole, both in their late 60s, tanned and sturdy from years of gardening, owned the place. Diane was the one Lila noticed most always out front, trimming hedges that didn't need it, bossing delivery drivers like she ran the street, rearranging her tacky lawn gnomes with a smirk that screamed, "I'm in charge here." Lila hadn't spoken to them beyond a quick wave, but she felt the VYB Diane's VYB. That day, she was prying up half-buried bricks, maybe an old garden border, when a county patrol car rolled up, slow and deliberate, no sirens. 2 officers stepped out, hands on belts, but not guns, all practice calm. The taller one, sunglasses perched on his balding head, nodded. "Ma'am, got a call about suspicious active VY here. Mind if we talk?" Lila, still gripping her spade, stood, brushing dirt off her gloves, baffled. "This is my place," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "I'm just weeding." "What's the issue?" They exchanged a look. Neighbor reported digging near their land, maybe MOVYing property markers. They're worried about boundary tampering. Lila let out a half laugh, half sigh, gesturing at the dirt. "I'm pulling weeds. Markers are untouched. Check for yourself." They did, poked around, scribbled notes, and shrugged. "Looks fine. Just doing our job." But before they left, the tall one lowered his shades. "Word of ad VYC. Your neighbors have called like this before. Your dad had a boundary spat with them a while back." Lila stood frozen after they drove off, staring at the rickety fence, then the ground. She wasn't mad yet. It was more like a heavy tiredness, like someone handed her a puzzle with half the pieces gone. Diane was territorial. Anyone could see that from her lawn gnome empire. But calling the cops over weeding? That was next level. That night, Lila dug through her dad's old files, past tax forms and receipts, until she found a 15-year-old survey map, stamped and notarized. It showed her property line clear as day and the Coles fence sat 6 feet inside her land. That strip of grass Diane decorated with flowers, the gravel where she parked her spare car, even the VY nest on her gate, all hers legally. Sleep didn't come easy. It wasn't about starting a where, it was knowing one was coming. Diane's cop call wasn't a mistake. It was a power move. If her message was, "Stay off what we've claimed," Lila knew what she had to do. She wasn't loud or flashy, but she knew systems logistics was her world. Next morning, she called a surveyor for a fresh assessment and a contractor to price out a temporary trench, just in case. She wanted it done right, no drama. But watching Diane water her flowers along the disputed line, acting like she owned it by sheer audacity, Lila felt something shift. She'd come to sell a house. Now, she wasn't so sure she'd leave. The surveyor, a quiet guy named Mark Jensen, worked like he'd seen this MOVYE before. For 3 hours, he dragged his laser level across the lawn, hammered stakes, and checked GPS coordinates. Lila watched from her kitchen, half expecting Diane to storm out. She didn't. By dusk, Mark confirmed it. The Coles had taken 1.5 meters of her land, no permits, no legal claim. That fence was probably shifted for convenience years ago, he said, pointing to Diane's flower beds. Never theirs. Lila paid him, filed the report, and strung twine between the stakisa, subtle line, not a taunt. By 6:30 a.m., Diane was out in her bathrobe, smacking a steak with a hoe, eyes locked on Lila's. She didn't speak, just turned and left. Game on. By noon, a code enforcement officer showed up, clipboard in hand, claiming reports of unpermitted excavation. Lila handed over her survey, mark certification, and contractor notes. He scanned them, annoyed. You've done your homework. We'll keep a file open, just in case. Lila exhaled. Diane's plan was clear: death by paperwork, using the system to grind her down. That night, Lila saw Diane pacing with a flashlight, pretending to search, but really watching. Lila didn't bite. She mailed Diane a certified letter, polite but firm, with the survey attached, stating the verified boundary. No threats, just facts. Diane went silent, no waves, no fake smiles. Tom, her husband, started hovering, checking their gate obsessively, face tight. Then came the trench. Lila had a landscaping crew dig a shallow, legal drainage ditch along the true line. Nothing permanent, just gravel and timber to mark her land. 6 minutes after the truck arrived, Diane stormed out, arms crossed, yelling loud enough for the whole street. "What's this mess, Lila? You better have permits, or you'll pay for any damage." Lila stayed calm, handed the foreman her plans, and locked her door. Diane ranted for 10 minutes, then quit. 2 days later, a letter from the Coles lawyer was taped to Lila's door, accusing her of malicious obstruction and threatening a lawsuit. Lila didn't flinch. She hired Sarah Nguyen, a boundary dispute attorney, who laughed at the letter. "They're bluffing," Sarah said. "They know it's not theirs. They're just hoping you'll cave." The trench went in, clean and precise, cutting off the Coles shortcut. Tom watched from his garage. Diane stayed inside. The neighborhood shifted. Neighbors stopped while vying. The mailman avoided her curb. Then the sprinkler started. Every morning, Lila's side of the trench was soaked, not from rain, but from Diane's angled sprinkler heads. Lila snapped photos, added them to her harassment folder, and kept quiet. Then her compost bins were dumped, content strewn deliberately. No proof, but Lila knew. She installed cameras and motion lights, not yelling, just watching. Diane hosted garden mornings, whispering about entitled newcomers. Neighbors avoided Lila's eyes. One even said Diane claimed Lila was building a barrier wall to ruin the street. Then came the glass-broken window, panes piled near her gate, too precise for an accident. Lila called the police, who logged it but shrugged. She added floodlights, cloud streaming cameras, and motion logs. When a fake utility inspector showed up, claiming to check easements, Lila smelled the scam, photographed his fake ID, and sent him packing. Sarah confirmed no such company existed. Then her gate was found unlatched, untouched, but Opina, chilling message. A shady investor knocked, offering to buy her out before things get messy. Lila shut the door, called Sarah, and said, "They're trying to run me out." Sarah's reply, "Then we fight where they can't cheat." Lila filed a CIVYL suit, not just against the Coles, but for all their stunts, trespass, harassment, interference. Her EVY Denke was ironclad. Logs, VY Deos, reports, photos. In court, Sarah laid it out: the survey, the trench, the Coles threats, even a clip of Diane dumping trash. The Coles lawyer babbled about community tradition, but the judge wasn't buying it. "Show me a legal easement," he said. They couldn't. The ruling was swift. Lila's rights were upheld, the Coles barred from nearing the trench, their petition tossed. The judge praised Lila's restraint. Diane's face collapsed, not in anger, but defeat. They left without a word. 2 days later, MOVYing truck pulled up to the Coles house. Diane, in plain clothes, didn't look at Lila's yard. Tom carried a single plant, head down. Their house hit the market, scrubbed clean of their mark. The trench stayed, not a scar, but a line clear final. Lila walked it that night, not gloating, just steady. New neighbors moved in, an older couple, kind and private. They thanked Lila for a survey copy she left them, along with scones and a note. "Glad you're next door." Lila didn't sell. She painted the porch, planted grasses along the trench, and invited Ted friends over. their laughter filling the yard where stress once ruled. The cameras stayed, but she stopped checking them. The house wasn't just her parents' Anna Maria, it was hers, earned through every stake, every letter, every silent stand. Diana tried to blur her boundaries, exhaust her, erase her. She'd failed, not because Lila screamed, but because she stood firm, her silence sharper than any shout. But here's the twist. Months later, Lila found a note in her mailbox, and signed, scrawled in shaky ink. "You won the dirt, but you lost the street. We'll be back." Was it Diane, plotting from afar? A neighbor still loyal to her? Or just a prank to keep her on edge? Lila didn't know, but she kept the note, added it to her files, and checked her cameras one more time. What do you think? Did Lila go too far with the trench? Or was it her only way to fight back? Should she have confronted Diane directly instead of playing the legal game? And that no real threat or petty ghost? Drop your take below. Hit that like button if this story got you heated, and subscribe for more real-life dramas that'll keep you guessing.